Hey guys, Outdoor Prepper, I want to welcome you back to the channel and do a little housekeeping as we start this video off. If you could do me a favor, if you enjoy this video, and if you could hit like and subscribe, it really helps out the channel. It helps out the algorithm and will help me to continue to produce great content for you guys. So what we have here today is, this is about a 4-year-old Champion generator. This is the 4,000 starting watt, 3,500 running watt generator. And what's a little different about this, it may look like a standard generator from the front, but it's really not. This is an inverter. This is what's called an open frame inverter generator. And basically it means exactly what it says. The frame is open. There's no closed panels with insulation like you would find on some of those suitcase inverter generators, whether they're from Harbor Freight, Champion, Generac, Westinghouse, they're all the same. But this is an open frame one. So as you can see here, it's actually made very well. I actually really do like Champion power equipment. This is the first Champion generator I've purchased. I've owned many generators, like I said, from Westinghouse, Generac, Champion now, Harbor Freight, Predator line. I've had a Yamaha, I've had a Honda, I have a Furman. So I'm very happy with the build quality of this unit. I did add the handle and the wheel kit. It does not come with that. I also added an hour meter. Let's go take a look at that. So this unit here has only 12.9 hours on it. And like I said, it's about 4 years old. You're probably looking at the top and you're seeing this orange cable and a tarp, and you're wondering, well, what is this cable for? And why is there a tarp there? So I will explain all that, and I also really want to explain this generator and why I really think that this size generator is the best size to power your house during an emergency. During a localized blackout, a large-scale grid-down scenario, you want something of this size, not a giant, monster that's going to produce 10,000 running watts, and there's a reason for that. And that reason is right next to the generator, and that's the fuel can. That is a 2.5 gallon fuel can, which is fairly small. This generator has a 2.7 gallon tank. So you can basically fill this whole generator up from a small fuel can like that. Now a larger generator, like, I'm just pulling this number out, but let's just say a Generac, 7,500, 9,000 running watt, maybe 11,000 starting watt. What kind of fuel usage do you think that's going to get? And keep in mind, that's a non-inverter generator. That's going to burn maybe, 7 gallons in 12 hours. And yeah, that might sound good, but if there's an actual grid down scenario or a large scale blackout, do you have enough fuel to continue to fuel that thing? 7 gallons of fuel in 12 hours? Probably not. This unit right here, first of all, this is clean power. It's an inverter, so it'll give you a very clean sine wave, whereas a standard generator will not. So this generator, unlike a conventional generator, produces very clean power because of the inverter technology and the sine wave. But the biggest feature of this generator, as I was inferring, is the fuel capacity and the fuel usage. This takes 2.7 gallons, and at a quarter load, and I know a quarter load is not a lot, but a quarter load is plenty to run your fridge and a few emergency lights in a true emergency, and charge your phones. At a quarter load, this thing can run for almost 17 hours. So if you do the math, this is a no-brainer. If you had 7 gallons of fuel on hand, which you would burn in, 12 hours on that Generac unit, do the math, you're going to get a lot of runtime from this inverter. So that is really the number one reason why I think a smaller generator like this 4,000 starting watt, which is plenty of watts to start whatever you really need in an emergency. I want to preface it with that, because in an emergency, you shouldn't have everything in your house running. You're going to have to conserve. You're going to have to, limit your fuel usage and your power usage. In my opinion, what you should be using in a true emergency is your fridge, enough lights so you can see around your house and not fall or become injured, charge your phones, get a TV or a radio, running so you can get some information. Maybe your computer router and a computer so you can again get some information. You can use a toaster oven. You could use a microwave. Obviously, each one of those at a time. You can't run them all at the same time. If you have a natural gas stove or just a gas stove in general, a propane stove, you could use the electric igniter. This probably would not power an electric stove. That would be too much usage. You could most likely do a washing machine, a gas dryer. You probably could not do an electric dryer. But again, if this is an emergency, if this is a grid down, you don't want to be burning all this fuel. The most important thing is keeping your food, refrigerated, having a source to cook with, and lights and communication. So let's get back to the top of the generator here. Why do I have this orange plug up here? Well, very simply, if you look at the generator, it has what's called a travel trailer socket right here. And this is so you can hook it up to your RV, because RVs have this specific outlet or inlet for them. Obviously, I don't have an RV. I'm going to use this to power my house to my transfer switch. And the transfer switch has an L1430R receptacle on it. And this right here is an L1430R. So what this cable does is it converts from travel trailer, which is this, to L1430R. So what I do is I plug this into the generator, and then I take my standard, long 25-foot generator cord, and I hook it up to this end, and I take the other end and I hook it right up to the transfer switch inlet on the side of my house. Start the generator up. I go downstairs, throw the breakers on the transfer switch, keep everything, balanced, and I'm good to go on this perfect generator that sips fuel and is relatively quiet as well. It is not as quiet as a true inverter with panels all over the side. When I say true inverter, what I'm referring to is the physical design, where most inverters have plastic panels all over the place to keep it really quiet. But this is very quiet. And I don't know if you can see, I'll zoom in, but the top switch right here is the on-off switch. This switch below here is the eco throttle. And so what that does is it throttles down the engine speed. There's a small motor on the carburetor, a small electric motor. So if you're only powering a light bulb, it's going to slow down the fuel going into the carburetor, and it's going to, obviously slow your engine speed because you don't need that much power. The inverter doesn't need the engine running that fast to produce power for a light bulb. But then when the refrigerator compressor kicks in or the air conditioner in your window kicks in, it will sense that there is a power requirement for more wattage and amperage, so it will speed up the engine by adjusting the carburetor. And what this does is it basically allows you to save a lot of fuel, create less noise, and have really clean power. I also keep the tarp on here because, again, I may be running this in a storm scenario where, it's heavy rain outside. Obviously, I don't want this generator to get wet. It's also not really safe to have a generator in the pouring rain. So what I do with the tarp is I make a shelter for the generator between chairs with some bricks. I have a table in the middle. And, during a blackout or a storm situation, I don't want to have to look for this stuff. So I keep the cable right on top. I keep the tarp right on top. And then I have a cover that I cover the generator with, and I wheel it in the garage. So I'm going to go ahead and move the gas can out of the way. I'm going to move the tarp out of the way, and we'll do a quick startup just so you can see what it sounds like. Champion makes several different versions of this. They have a newer one, obviously, as well. As I indicated, this is 4 years old. They make ones with electric start. They make a more enclosed inverter. But I'm really happy with the Champion equipment line. The only modification I have done to this is I changed out the spark plug. I put an NGK and I took the torch spark plug out. Other than that, it's got a standard duplex outlet. Right over here, we've got the circuit breakers right here in the center if anything were to trip. These two, red and black, are if you want to parallel this unit to another one so you can get double the power. We have a standard cigarette lighter plug right there. This is a neutral floating generator, and that's a grounding lug right there. That yellow cap right here is the oil fill and the dipstick, and this silver plug right here, this bolt, is your drain. Super easy to do oil changes. You just loosen that bolt right there, let the oil drain into a little pan, put the bolt back in, fill the oil up until it comes up to the threads and the dipstick, and you're good to go. So let's get all the stuff cleared away. Let's start it up and you can see what it sounds like. All right, I've moved a couple of things out of the way here. I've also repositioned the generator just a little bit. This has been sitting for a while. I do have fuel stabilizer in here. It might be a little hard to start just because, again, it's been quite a while. I would like to drain the tank down completely. But let's take a look at the starting procedure. So first thing you want to do is you want to keep the eco mode off. You want to keep the stop run switch on. This is the choke. You just want to pull the choke out. As soon as it starts, you'll push the choke in. Once the green power light is on and you're producing power and it's, idled steady, you could go ahead and flip the eco on if you want to lower the engine speed. Coming around to the side, we have the fuel on-off valve. So what I always do, and I highly recommend this, that you do this as well, is when you're going to stop the machine, while it's running, switch this to the off position, which is sideways like that, and you can see from the diagram here, and let the fuel run out of the lines. That way the generator just runs out of fuel. That's what I would suggest. So now I'm going to come over here. I'm just going to turn this fuel petcock to on, which is up and down. So that's on. And give it a second. Let some fuel, flow into the carburetor bowl, because like I said, this has been sitting for quite some time. Engine is extremely cold, as you can see by the fact that I can just grab onto it. That's the exhaust right there. Let's give it a couple of pulls and see if it starts. I'm not sure at what pull it will start, but let's give it a try. Pardon me, it's hard to do this with one hand. We're at 4, 5. Keep in mind, like I said, the fuel is totally drained out of the lines in the carburetor. Let's try pushing the choke in a little bit. All right. This is a lot more starts than I was anticipating, but again, I'm using one hand, so I'm going to go turn this off and pull it again with a little more force. It's going to be a little easier for me, and I will report how many more pulls it takes. Okay, just started up. I've still got the choke on. Oh. I figured out the problem why it really was difficult to start. It's pretty much out of fuel, which is a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing because that is actually the goal. Bad thing because I do want you guys to see it run. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little fuel in here with stabilizer and start it up. So give me 1 minute. All right, so I went in the garage and I got a little bit of this tri-fuel. This is engineered fuel. Basically what this means, you can buy this at Home Depot, is this is no ethanol, which is 100% what you want, ethanol free. So you can put this in the generator and you can rest assured that basically this is going to work and not clog up the carburetor. So let me go ahead, let's open up the fuel cap. And as you can see, I'm going to remove the screen. It's, maybe you can't see with all this bright sunlight, but it's almost bone dry in there. So I'm going to come over here and screw my cap on the ethanol-free fuel. And I'm going to try not to spill it everywhere. But it's good to use this fuel as well, because what you really should be doing is you should be starting a generator every 30 days. Let it run, let it idle for 20 minutes, put a small load on it. What I like to do, I have a small little space heater that I keep in the garage. I didn't pour the whole bottle, I poured probably half of it in there. But what you should do is you should put a very small load, a little space heater, and let it run. Let it run for 20 minutes. Then take the load off, let it cool down, and stop the engine and put it away. All right, so we've got a little more fuel. Let's pull the choke again. There we go, much better. Now I'm going to push the choke in. And that is high idle. I know it probably sounds loud on the camera, and it's not super quiet. Just just so we're clear, this is not a super quiet machine like fully enclosed inverters are, but this is much more quiet than, say, a standard non-inverter generator. And now I'm going to go ahead and put it in eco mode so you can see the difference. And hopefully that picks it up on the camera. It slows the idle speed down, and now it's just going to hang out here at this RPM. And we'll just let it run. I'm going to let this run for about 20 minutes. We'll come back and we'll wrap this up. Okay guys, so I let this run out of fuel. I turned the fuel valve off after it ran out. And let's take a look at the hours. We didn't run very long. I didn't put very much fuel in there. We're at 13.1. We were at like 12.9 or something like that before. So that kind of wraps up this video. Leave some comments. I know a lot about generators, and like I said, I've owned larger ones. I owned a very large Westinghouse, and while it was a great unit, it had a lot of power, that was also its downfall. It had a lot of power and it used a lot of fuel. My goal here, I'm not on a construction site. If you're on a construction site and you want to run one of those and you've got, you know, a fuel tanker next to you, you could run it all day long. It's not a problem. But my goal for this unit is simply to provide emergency backup power to the house to keep the fridge, the lights, a router, the internet, and maybe a TV going. And that's it. And this can do that hands down, no issues at all. And it can do it very fuel efficiently. So I recommend Champion. I think they're a great brand. I'm sure there's other great brands out there, but I've had a lot of happiness with this unit, a lot of success, and I have no intention to believe that this will not run well for the very foreseeable future. I did the first oil change at 5 hours. I did the second oil change at 10 hours, just to kind of get all the gunk out of there from manufacturing. And now I'm probably going to do future oil changes at 50 or 100 hours. Oil is cheap, engines are expensive. This does not take a lot of oil. It doesn't even take a quart. It's like a half a quart. So really low cost to keep this thing maintained. Hope you like the video. I really appreciate it.